What's up, everybody? How everybody doing? Yo, so I'm doing this video to shed a little light on police activity and how they deal with the public and the things they're supposed to do and the way they're supposed to be upheld according to their books and manual. Um, as we've seen over the years, there's been a lot of occurring of police shootings with people in the low income communities. And especially those who are being shot who are unarmed. So today I'm just bringing a little light on this issue to maybe change the way police are policing in America or in some of our provinces, because in order for police to do their job, we got to do our job. But in order for the police to do their job, I feel as citizens, we must know what their job is so we can hold them to the standards of their job and what they're out here based to do. Now, I understand police officers have a very difficult job, being watchmen and cruising the neighborhoods and streets and doing whatever they do. So, and I feel that. But like I said, I am just trying to shine light on the misconduct that police use against the citizens. Now, what is a trait that makes a good cop? Now, we know there's hard to tell between a good cop and a bad cop because everyone is different. Everyone have different personalities, and everybody had a different walking way of life and how they do things. But it says here in Making of the Cop, it says good judgment, having wisdom and the ability to make good analytic decisions based on the understanding of a problem. All right, so it's telling you here in their book, Making of a Cop, to have good judgment, and that is having wisdom and the ability to make good analytic decisions based on the understanding of a problem. Now, we know a lot of times we'll be in the low communities, and a lot of people have mental problems and mental problems, and they're going through a lot of stuff that only people in the community understand how that is. And a lot of times, these policemen or women, they get on the scene with the biased outlook of a situation, and most times they become the aggressor versus being a peacekeeper and trying to figure out things so both parties can go ahead and be adjourned and go their separate ways. They're supposed to be like a conflict manager. But at times we see police men and women violating that by escalating situations to where it may turn into some kind of deadly altercation, and that's something that we need to talk about and see if we can put a stop to that or start to be able to criminalize the policemen or women who are violating their oaths of office and are doing criminal things outside of the book, how they're supposed to deal with situations. Okay? Now, the making of a cop. Courage. Being able to meet physical and psychological challenges. Okay? Let me repeat that. Being able to meet physical and psychological challenges. Thinking clearly during times of high stress. Admitting when one is wrong, standing up for what is right. But a lot of times that does not happen. It's actually the opposite. Like I said, a lot of times people are in certain areas. Not even that. You have mentally ill people who's on the street and stuff like that too. And a lot of times these policemen, they act more aggressive, like bullies, and they're supposed to be able to meet physical and psychological challenges. And they deal with that with aggression. And it's like they don't even take in the fact that this person is having a mental breakdown or what even caused it. Person could have lost their mother, could have lost their family, could have been cheated on hella times, could have been just mental breakdowns. People have a right to be human and have a right to explode, especially if they're not really physically hurting anybody. But sometimes people just have mental imbalances at that time and moment. And the policemen and women need to know when they're going into these situations, they need to know how to put that first and try to figure out, okay, what is this person dealing with? They don't even have to be on anything. And a lot of times people have mental breakdowns. We always assume that it's drug related when it can be stress related. It can be a lot of things related that differs not to drugs. You know what I'm saying? Now, it says understanding discretion, enforcing the spirit of law, not the letter of law, not being hard nosed, hard headed, or hard hearted, giving people a break and showing empathy. So, like I said, a lot of times these policemen, not all the time, because I could talk about some good times too. A lot of police, they do that. You know what I'm saying? Certain things they do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say they don't, and I've witnessed that. I'm pretty sure I've witnessed that before too. Okay, but they saying policemen, when you're dealing with people, it's not always about arresting someone or thinking someone is guilty of something. That's the part of you understanding discretion and enforcing the spirit of law, not the letter of law. All right? Not being hard nosed, hard headed, or hard hearted. Okay? All right. It says a thirst for knowledge. Okay? Being aware of new laws and court decisions. Always learning from the classroom, but also via information discussed with other officers. So there is a lot of court cases, Supreme Court cases, that show facts of certain things that state police do ignore or take not heed to it. And I notice a lot of times too, they say you should know the law. But I feel, my personal opinion, that they know people do not study or care about the law, right? So therefore, by that, they're able to deceive you. But sometimes when you try to demonstrate that you know the law, sometimes from what I've seen personally and I've seen on the internet, they become irate and they start ignoring you and they start doing shit that they're not supposed to be doing, which is unlawful things, you know? Um, like arresting you on some bullshit that you know is bullshit and that won't even stick in the court and they might just throw it out, stuff like that. Like unreasonable arrest when it's not even an arrestable offense. All right, you guys. So right now we're going to talk about resistance. We're going to talk about the subject's actions, the descriptions, and the possible force options. And the possible force options is going to be what the police or should I say peace officer is supposed to do in certain situations. So let's say the subject's actions is cooperative. The subject offers no resistance. So it's saying the policeman or peace officers should be more professional in appearance, nonverbal actions, verbal requests and commands. Okay? Now, if you're dealing with someone who's passive and non-compliant, it says does not respond to verbal commands, but also offer no physical form of resistance. Then it says the officer's strength to take physical control, including lifting, carrying, controlling holds, and techniques to direct movement or immobilize the subject. So they say if they're giving you a command and you're not complying, they're trying to get you to put your hands behind your back or something like that, and you're not really being aggressive, but you're being uncompliant. So they're saying they do have the right to grab you or to restrain you in a way to where they can be able to arrest you without no one getting harmed. Okay? All right. Now it says active resistance. Physical evasive movements to defeat an officer's attempt at control, including bracing, tensing, running away, or verbally signaling or intention to avoid or prevent being taken into a detained or custody. Now, the officer controlling holds and techniques to control the subject and situation. So they're supposed to use a professional use of personal weapons in self-defense and to gain advantage over the subject, use of devices to secure compliance to ultimately gain control of the situation. So like they say, hey, comply or we're going to tase you. Comply or we're going to tase you. Boom. All right. They have the right to tase you. You know what I'm saying? Boom. We got that. So what I'm saying is there's ways for these peace officers to handle situations as they occur and not to always go into a defense mode or mechanism to feel superior. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, like I said, they escalate situations that do not need to be escalated, which they put themselves in danger and they put the lives of other people that's in danger, depending on the severity of the circumstances. I just want to throw that out there. I hope y'all understand me. when I'm talking to y'all and understand what I'm saying. Now let's talk about policemen or constables using deadly force. So let's say a neighbor called the police to report there seemed to be a suspicious activity in the house next door, right? So, boom, somebody called 911. Hello? Yeah, I see some suspicious activity next door. I'm gonna need y'all to come check this shit out. Okay, boom. So, the boys get on the scene, right? Now, let's say the burglar surprised by the police officer entering the room and shot and missed. So, boom, cops check the house and they see the burglar. Burglar like, oh shit, fire, 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 fire. Miss the cops, right? You know what I'm saying? Now, since the burglar used deadly force against the officer had authority to use deadly force to shoot back in self-defense, even if he killed him. It was a justifiable homicide because his life was in immediate danger by being shot at by a suspect. Now, here's the plot twist, right? Now, after the missing, so now let's say the burglar shot at the cop, and after he shot at the burglar threw his weapon on the ground, right? And said, hey, don't shoot, I'm sorry, don't shoot. Now, the officer is no longer in immediate danger of being seriously injured or killed. So at that moment, when that burglar surrendered his firearm on the ground, that cop no longer had authority to use deadly force. And if that cop would have used deadly force, then therefore it would have been an unjustified homicide. And that cop should be charged as if it was a regular citizen by violating the oath and acting outside of their guidelines of using deadly force. All right, here's another scenario. As an example, a peace officer got out the patrol car to question a man loitering in the street corner. You feel me? Now the subject started becoming irate and fired on the cop. Boom, bow, right? So the subject used his fist to attack the officer. Now, the attack was so much force, it caused the officer to believe he was in immediate danger. Like, yo, damn, this motherfucker hit hard. He just rocked my shit. Oh, shit, this motherfucker might take my life. Provided that all other reasonable means of self-defense has been exhausted, right? So even if the dude rocked this shit, he could not just go for his gun to shoot someone because he said his life was in danger because someone's giving you the bad cases of the blues. You feel me? There's steps that this peace officer have to take before they can even go to the extreme. You see? Now, provided that all reasonable means of self-defense have been exhausted or would have been ineffective, the officer would have had the authority to use deadly force in self-defense. So if that man or woman attacking you or beating your ass and he getting on you so hard, you feel like this nigga about to knock me out or really fuck me up, then they saying you have the right to use deadly force. Okay? So that's about deadly force. And I'm going to speak more on deadly force because this is the issue that I'm talking about. Police using deadly force, and majority of the times it's justifiable. So I want to look in their book and see what is an actual justifiable means of a homicide. Because if we as the people can understand this and learn this, then we can hold them to the standards that they're supposed to be held to. And therefore, if they violate the standards that they are supposed to attain to, then therefore, as the people, we should go forth and therefore get a conviction of this peace officer. Do y'all agree? I'm just being fair. I'm not being biased. I'm just tired of seeing on the news every day that an unarmed man or woman got shot for something that was so fucking petty and also something that could have been avoided. And they always talking about police need more training. Well, you go to the academy to get the training that you need to have to go out on the streets to deal with the public, to deal with the people. So if they're not getting enough training, then that must mean the academy is not doing a good job hiring the right people or training the people for certain situations. That's what I will believe, All right, check this out. Here's another scenario. So 2 officers was dispatched to a convenience store, right? After a silent alarm was tripped. All right. Now this is the subject's action. An armed male subject saw the officer patrol vehicle and fled. So he saw the cherries and the berries, like, oh shit, that's one time I got a cut. So the officer, I mean, so the guy, he flees, boom. You know what I'm saying? The nigga that was in the store breaking in. Now it says the police officers saw the store clerk had been shot, but was still alive and gesturing towards the fleeing subject, like, he went out back. He went out back. So the officers realized the subject was trying to escape, and they seen that he had a gun. All right. Now, because the subject used a firearm to commit a crime, if necessary, the officers have the authority to discharge their firearm to prevent the escape of the effect of the arrest. So they're saying, like, look, you bam, you pop somebody, you try to flee, you got a gun in your hand, they have the right to use deadly force because you already used force against someone and hurted them severely with great bodily injuries. Excuse me, y'all. It's kind of late. Okay, y'all. Now, another scenario, same scenario, but just a different way now, right? Now, the store clerk have not been injured, and the officers did not know if the fleeing subject was armed, unless the officers have knowledge that the robbery included the use or threatened with the gun, or to likely cause death or serious injury, they would not have authority to use deadly force to prevent the subject from fleeing. So they's telling you right there, if the man robbed the store but didn't show no gun or anything like that, and he fled, when the cops came, then the cops had no right to shoot that man. And if they shot that man or woman in the act of that, then they shall be held accountable for murder. Okay, in the first degree, second degree, however they want to put it. But that is how it was supposed to go, you know? And like I said, it's becoming too frequent now that every day we turn the TVs on and we see the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Cop involved shooting. And not only that, they go on a little staycation. They go home. They still get paid while they're at home till the investigation is complete. You know what I'm saying? But they still get paid. I feel that if there's any peace officer involved in any type of shooting, that therefore they should not get no pay until the investigation is over. And if they are found to be not guilty, then therefore they shall receive their pay. And if they're found guilty, then therefore they shall be apprehended, fired, and other steps that they should take. Like if you're dealing with a regular citizen. Now we're going to talk about like the threat to life. We see so many videos where you see peace officers shooting unarmed people, right? And you see clearly in the videos that there was no threat to their life, and they still discharged their service pistol and took someone's life. And yet, majority, 97%, 95% of the time, they are not convicted. It says threat to life. Does the subject present a credible threat to the officers and other? Peace officers may use force reasonable to defend their lives or the lives of others. But why use deadly force? Now it says imminent threat. Does the subject present an imminent threat to life? Is the subject threatening an officer or others with a weapon? With a weapon. Subject's access to weapons or potential weapons. Proximately the subject to the officer. So, okay, yeah, they ran at you with a knife. Okay, you shot him. Didn't tase him, did anything. A little knife. Was deadly force, did that have to be used? There wasn't any other method that could have been used besides 20 officers shoot at people? Or 5 or 4? Because every time when one shoot, they all shoot. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're going to talk about self-control. All right. We need to talk about like when these peace officers are getting ready to get into situations from the calls they get. Before they get to the call, they're supposed to mentally prepare themselves for anything that may happen or may not happen. but in a way to where it's not always on edge and feeling like your life is in danger because you're putting your own life in danger by some actions or malicious acts that one may do because they're trying to authoritize their power or abuse their power on a citizen. Now it talks about managing anger. Now, these peace officers, they have to depersonalize what people say or do. They have to recognize that the subject is reacting to the uniform and not the person in the uniform. That is deep. Let me say that again. These peace officers are supposed to recognize that the subject is reacting to the uniform and not the person in the uniform. All right? Identifying angers, including scenarios. Visualizing angers, including situations. A child taking drugs, subject beating up a partner. You can't get emotional attached to these things. You're here to do a job. You know, developing problem solving solutions. Remember, you guys are like a conflict manager on the streets to people, even though people don't view you like that because of the history that the people and the law enforcement have. It's not really good because of the racism and things that's been happening out through the years. Now, they're told in the self-control part of the book of how to be a cop is patience, mental rehearsals of different scenarios, do some role playing, seek advice from more experienced officers, recognizing the onset, control breathing, if appropriate, take a step back from the situation. You don't have to always be the fucking aggressor. Your book is telling you how to deal with self-control, you know? Let's talk about police officers and their liability. Now, we know a lot of times that these peace officers do a lot of corrupt stuff, and a lot of times they're not held liable, and a lot of times they are held liable. It depends on the circumstances. Now it says that peace officers must recognize the consequences of using reasonable force and their legal and ethnic responsibilities to intervene if the force being used by another peace officer is inappropriate or unlawful. Now it says that here in their book. A lot of times we see that when police are conducting misconduct, that other officers do not step in or intervene. Either they go along with it or they stand by, but they do not intervene and they do not use ethical responsibilities to intervene. You know, I'm not going to get on to that, but they can be held liable if something happens and they did not intervene because they're just as guilty for not doing anything. Now, we have something called unreasonable force. Now, that occurs when the type of degree and the duration of the force employed was not necessary or appropriate. When they're punching you, kicking you, grabbing you hella rough, you know what I'm saying? Even when you arguing with them and they roughing you up and shit, that is unreasonable force. They slam you to the ground hella hard, smush your head on the ground. Just, unreasonable force. Like, you know when you see it, the shit's unreasonable. You know what I'm saying? Now, there's consequences of unreasonable force, okay? Unreasonable force is malicious assaults and batteries committed by peace officers constitute unlawful conduct. When the force used is unreasonable, the officer can face criminal and civil liability and agency disciplinary actions. Excuse me, y'all. So peace officers can be held liable for their misconduct out here on the street when they're dealing with the public. Now what are the consequences? Criminal action. Face criminal charges for unreasonable use of authority or force. Civil lawsuits. Face compensatory and punitive damages. Civil rights violation. Be held accountable for civil rights violations. I think that's under section 1983 or something like that. Administrative or agency action. To be subject to disciplinary actions, including dismissal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, like I said, I'm doing this video to shed light on what it takes for a cop to be a cop. He has to go through certain trainings and academies to be able to be out here on the street to hold the oath to which he or she sworn to upon, taking his oath to be a policeman. That's very serious. But a lot of times we don't really understand their oath and their conduct. So by understanding their conduct, we can police the police so they don't violate outside of their guidelines and how they're supposed to deal with situations. But for us to get there, we have to know some of the things they can and cannot do so we can have a better understanding when we come in contact with these constables. So we know how we deal with situations, or if they're violating or stepping outside of the guidelines of how they're supposed to handle situations, we can correct them. And if there's any wrongdoing upon that, then therefore the people can go to the district attorney and file charges against them. Now, check this out, y'all. It says every public officer who's under color of authority and without lawful necessity assaults or beats any person is punishable by a fine exceeding $10,000 or by imprisonment in the state prison or a county jail not exceeding 1 year, or both by fine and imprisonment. So every public officer under color of authority, now color of authority is doing something in the name of law, but it's against the law. Okay? Without lawful necessity assaults or beats a person. So without reason or doing it maliciously. This is under Penal Code Section 149. All right? Shall be fined $10,000, or depending on how the severe of the assault or whatever they did unlawfully, can exceed to a year in jail and fined or imprisoned. The public officer removal for neglect or violation of official duty. All right. It shall be unlawful to aid and abet attempt to apply cruel, corporal, or usual punishments in reformatories, institutions, jails, state hospitals, or any other state, county. Got that. Now, this is the federal law regarding officer behavior. There are 2 sections of the United States codes that address an officer's unlawful action. Okay? So there are 2 sections of the United States codes that address an officer's unlawful action. United States Code, Title 18, Section 242, Criminal. Peace officers are prohibited from depriving citizens of their rights under the color of law. If death results, officers may be punished by life imprisonment. All right. So peace officers are prohibited from depriving citizens of their rights under color of law. Color of law is doing something in the name of law, but it's really against the law. Okay. Y'all should look into that, because a lot of times that happens, but we do not know how to identify that. So they're able to get away with certain crimes that would have been punishable with criminal acts, but we don't know how to go about it, or we get intimidated by them and we do nothing. And therefore they're able to bully us and do stuff that they're not supposed to do. That is unethical to what it takes to be a good cop according to their book. It says peace officers are prohibited from depriving citizens of their rights under color of authority. Title 42, Section 1983, Civil. The unreasonable use of force by an officer can discredit and result in loss of public support to any officer's agency. So exactly, that is why people feel the way they do about the police and the way that they do things. And because they do the things that they do, it brings a distrust to the peace officers and to the people. So therefore, it's like a hate relationship. You know what I'm saying? Well, not hate like that, but yeah, I guess you could say people feel some type of way about them because of the things they do and the misconduct that they do, and they never get in trouble for it. I mean, not all of them, but some do. Vicarious liability holds an agency responsible for the conduct of its officers while acting within the scope of their authority. The agency can be liable under federal civil rights law, liable under federal civil rights law, sued for negligent or inadequate training or failure to supervise adequately. Example, an officer uses unreasonable force by applying a corduroy restraint control hold and has not been trained in this type of control hold. So just doing certain moves and takedowns that they haven't been trained for, and they're doing it on their own, you could be held liable if you hurt somebody's shit. So yeah, like I said, unreasonable force. Unreasonable force occurs when the type, degree, and the duration of the force implied was not necessary or appropriate. So, like I said again, when they do shit out of anger, being mad, that is unreasonable force. Now, consequences of an unreasonable force: malicious assaults and batteries committed by peace officers constitute unlawful conduct. When the force used is unreasonable, the officer can face criminal and civil liability and the agency for disciplinary actions. Now, what are the consequences? What are the consequences when officers use unreasonable force or doing things they're not supposed to do? Let's see. Consequences. Criminal action. Face criminal charges for unreasonable use of authority or force. Civil lawsuits. Face compensatory and punitive damages. I think I already said this to you guys in the other video. Now, we have the Fourth Amendment protections, from unlawful search and seizures and unlawful taking your shit. It says the United States Constitution protects individuals from unlawful actions of peace officers. So under the Fourth Amendment, the United States Constitution protects individuals from unlawful actions of peace officers. The officer who fails to intervene for whatever reason is also held accountable by the United States Code. Okay? Now let's talk about lawful resistance. Although Penal Code Section 834A states that a person being arrested must submit to an arrest, if unlawful or unrestrainable force is used to effect the arrest, the person being arrested may lawfully resist to overcome that force. Y'all hear that? So if a police officer is unlawfully detaining you, you have the right to wiggle up out of that and get up out of there, man. You have the right. It says it right here. Penal Code Section 692. Well, that's all for tonight, y'all. Thank y'all for staying tuned, like and share. And if you guys have any comments, man, just leave them down below. How we can fix this problem, address this problem, and bring this problem to the light. So therefore, we can have better policing for these constables on patrol. So they're not violating people's rights, and they're staying true to their oath, and they're being outstanding and being however they're supposed to be according to their workbook. Because remember, it's all about having a good relationship, even though it sounds fucked up and people think I'm crazy for talking and doing this stuff, but it's the truth. I mean, we got to start somewhere. And for us to start somewhere, we have to address the problems and come with a solution. And I think the solution is they living up to what they swore oath to, and to be upstanding and outstanding and carry themselves in the way they're supposed to according to their book, and not the way they want to or by the way they feel personally. And I just want to say this too. I noticed that a lot of people, when they go 0 to 100, like officers, they go 0 to 100 and they become irate and they become like sometimes psychopaths, like a power trip. It's like they gotta have the last word. My word's authority, and may that be true, but it's still not true. And there's guidelines and things that they must follow too, to do what they're doing and have honor within themselves. So peace and love, everybody. Like and share, and let's stop this police unjustified shootings and shit like that, and bring people to justice. And let's take accountability for our actions as well when we're out there, not to be taunting them or saying things to them that will get them irate and to fuck you up. Peace.